NLA News Radio, 1110 KFAB.
Schrock Innovations presents the Midwest #1 independent computer repair company with service centers in Lincoln, Omaha, Papillion, Des Moines, and across the country via the Schrock desk. This is Compute This.
Good morning, folks, and welcome into Compute This. My name is Thor Schrock. I'm the owner of the Schrock Innovations Computer Company with service centers, 4 of them, across Nebraska and Iowa to help you out when your computer's having trouble, when there's something going on that you need assistance with, when the hard drive isn't working quite like it's supposed to. We are there for you. The first location, the OG Schrock Innovations, located 7501 South 15th Street in Lincoln, Nebraska. Then we opened up in Omaha, 168th and Burke Street, just across the street from the Village Point Mall. Third one came along in Papillion, 84th and Highway 370 in the Midlands Place Shopping Center. And then the newest Schrock Innovations in West Des Moines, Iowa at 9500 University Avenue. 888-250-2091. Now, those are the numbers to join us on the program this morning. If you call that number and you ask a question or you make a comment, we will put you in the drawing for a $25 Schrock Innovations gift certificate that's good for anything your heart desires over in the service center. All you have to do is just give us a call. And honestly, the callers make the show, guys. I can sit here and blather on for an hour and, we'll get through the hour. But it's much more interesting when you have people calling in and sharing their questions or the problems they're having with their computers because, believe it or not, most computer problems are pretty similar. Different flavors, different reasons, different tweaks, but the problems are eternal. You can't log in. You can't log out. You can't connect to the internet. You can't get your email. You can't, it's like it won't turn on. It won't turn off. Those are turns off when it's not supposed to turn off. These are the problems that we deal with all the time, and there's always different reasons why they happen. But the unifying thing is that we're there to help when they do happen. And so I'd love to have you guys give us a call this morning on the program, 888-250-2091, so that we can make sure that we're helping you out with your problems as well. All right, so if you missed last week's show, last week we talked about how your contact tracing phone app could be leaking your private health data. So if that's something that you do with your phone, if you use a contact tracing app, highly recommend you go over to SchrockInnovations.com, click on Radio Show, and give that show a listen. Also, we talked about the new Firefox version 88 and the security improvements that it is giving to protect personal privacy. Once again, Firefox trying desperately to remain relevant in a world that seems to be in their world, which is completely funded by Google. But they are cranking out some really nice privacy products to help keep your personal data safe. We also explain what's going on when U.S. agencies were bypassing your Fourth Amendment right by buying your private data from data brokers rather than getting a warrant and seizing it directly from you. They didn't need a warrant if they were buying it from data brokers, and we talked about the legislation that's being introduced to prevent that from happening. So all in all, it was a pretty wide-ranging show. We had some politics, we had some tech, we had some questions. Of course, all the questions are always at the end of the show because that's when people call in, not because I save them. Some people might think I save the calls for the end of the show. No, I don't. I don't like to keep people sitting on hold. I get to them as quick as I can. All right, so coming up on the show today, time is running out, guys. We expect the big Microsoft update to happen sometime around May 11th. Now, May 11th is Patch Tuesday. So that is Patch Tuesday. That's when Microsoft normally releases their standard cycle of patches and updates for computers. Now, in the past, they haven't really released it on Patch Tuesday, so I'm hearing the rumor that it's coming out on the 11th, and I'm like, but they've never released it on a Patch Tuesday before, so I'm not sure what the deal is there, but that's what we're hearing is May 11th. So if you have purchased a copy of Safe Upgrade to safely upgrade one of your computers, your Windows computers, to the new 21H1 version of Windows 10, that's 21H1 for half one. Later on in the year, there'll be 21H2 for half two. That one is going to be a doozy. This one, thankfully, is mostly under the hood. You're not going to notice a whole lot different when you install this update. If you use 3D Paint, you might notice something different, but I don't really know anybody who uses the 3D Paint program. But you're not going to notice anything different. But what this update does is it is laying the groundwork for what is going to be an epic fall update. So concern number one is you don't want to lay the groundwork and take the fall update at the same time if you can help it. You want to make sure that you're doing these in order when they are supposed to be done. The second thing is there are some of you out there that have ridiculously outdated versions of Windows 10. Sometimes it's because you have a piece of hardware in the computer that is not compatible with the newer version, like a graphics card in many cases. We see this a lot on computers that were upgraded from the old Windows Vista all the way up to Windows 10. We can replace the graphics card and get you up to the current version. Sometimes it's because you have a piece of software that's not compatible. Well, many times we can figure out what that piece of software is and find out what you're going to have to do to get updated so that you have the newer version of the software so that you can receive these important updates. What ends up happening is if you get too far behind on these critical major Windows upgrade versions, Microsoft actually cuts off your security patches. So if you get more than 2 versions behind, you're running the risk of getting cut off from security patches. And you don't want to have that happen. There are so many zero-day vulnerabilities that are being exploited. This week, the last 2 weeks, guys, I haven't had a whole lot of news to talk about on the show. We've really had to dig deep to find stories that I thought would be interesting for airtime. This week, I had to take a scythe to the stack because there's too much. Everything was getting hacked. Everything was getting hacked. Everybody was hacking everybody else. Even Australia was going off the deep end. No pun intended. So with all that going on in the world, you really don't want to be the one guy sitting out there without security updates. And we're going to talk about we're going to talk about another security situation on the show today that is going to be a big problem for Southeast United States, big problem for 10 states. 1/5 of the nation is going to have a big problem because of one cyber attack. And it's just nuts. Also, speaking of Australia, Australia says that privacy is only for criminals. That's right. There is absolutely no reason that you would want to have any privacy unless you were a criminal. So, yeah. So in that framework, you should allow yourself to be tracked everywhere you go. And that's certainly what Facebook thinks, because they're talking about they have a warning screen now for iPhone users. You know how you have to opt in to tracking now? And who is going to opt in to be tracked? Facebook knows that people aren't going to opt in to be tracked. So they have a screen that pops up to say, please opt in to be tracked. And here's why it's important. We can show you really, really, really personalized advertisements that are interesting to you. Okay, I guess if I have to watch a commercial, I'd rather not watch an incontinence commercial when I'm 22. I'm not 22, but you get what I'm saying. If it's not applicable to you, why am I seeing, feminine product ads? This is not applicable to me. Well, it's because you don't let us track you. Fair enough. Okay, I guess I'll suffer through it. But then they added a little line, help keep Facebook free. iPhone users might have to start paying for Facebook. We're going to tell you what's going on there as well. Speaking of the iPhone, I'm going to tell you, if you don't have the fundage or the desire to upgrade to the newest iPhone 12 model, I'm going to tell you today one stupid trick that will make your 2.5-year-old iPhone smoke an iPhone 12. That's right. If you have an old iPhone, maybe you got kids listening and they're like, yeah, I've got the hand-me-down iPhone from Dad and it's really old and slow. Well, guess what? Dad's, rocking his iPhone 12, keeps taking it out of his pocket every 5 minutes just to look at it, putting it back in his pocket again. And you're just sitting there saying, I wish I had an iPhone 12. Well, I'm going to tell you what you can do to make your phone even faster than Dad's coming up on the program today. 888-250-2091. I mentioned Safe Upgrade in the beginning of the program here, in the context of what it does. So the big Windows 10 upgrades that are coming potentially on May 11th, these are upgrades. This is like a Windows upgrade versus it had a baby with a service pack, and then that baby came out and has a 20% chance of taking your computer down. That's literally what we see every single time one of these updates happens. We created Safe Upgrade because we got tired of getting yelled at. Literally, like that was the motivation for it. We're a service business, and if you're a service business and every time one of your customers comes into your service center, they're upset, right? And maybe they're not upset at us, but they are upset. That's like saying, I'm going to pull the pin out of this hand grenade and I want you to hold it in your hand. Don't let go of that little lever, but just hold that in your hand. And you're not going to let go of the lever on purpose. You never are. But one little wrong move, and all of a sudden that hand grenade becomes live, and it's a big problem. And you start piping 20 or 30 of those customers through your service centers each in a month, and you're going to have a couple explosions. Something's going to happen. It was bad. Every 6 months we had customers, and it was the same people. The same customers got hit over and over and over. I don't know if they just won life's lottery or what the deal was. They would come into the service center because their computer wouldn't work. I'm so tired of Microsoft blowing up my computer every 6 months, and I have to pay 2 hours of labor to fix it, which is, $230 to get my computer fixed. This is ridiculous. I don't understand this, whatever the case might be. So we created Safe Upgrade. It's a product that we make at Schrock that delivers Microsoft's free update to your computer in the same manner that we would do it in our service center. So it's not through the Microsoft automatic update engine. You're not paying for a Microsoft update. Microsoft updates are free, and you should get them automatically. But I just told you there's a bunch of people that don't have them. And that's because their computers can't take them or won't take them, or they reboot every time and then it doesn't install and it tries again later. You end up with a half an hour of downtime every morning before you can use your computer. It's a mess. Or the computer reboots and your data's gone. Or the computer never reboots. It just sits and spins. Or the computer reboots and doesn't work. Like Windows is corrupted and it can't roll back and it can't go forward. Usually that one's due to a hardware failure. So there's all these different things that can happen in a computer that can cause these upgrades to go sideways. We have just spent a year taking consumer-grade computers and forcing them into a work-from-home scenario. Computers that were designed to allow grandma to check her email reliably for a couple years have suddenly been used as receptionist computers and accountant computers and any other type of computer you can think of. They weren't designed for that. So we've been pushing these machines hard. We're going to see some hardware failures. Just this morning, I got an alert on a hard drive that was detected by Drive Advisor as bad. It's a C drive, somebody's C drive, their main hard drive in their computer, just now, this morning, started to fail. I'm going to find him here. And I know this gentleman is John K. John K., your hard drive just dropped from 100% to 94%. Your C drive. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. This is the kind of failure that will cause 21H1 to fail. This update right here, and John has Drive Advisor, so he may see the alert on his screen. He may see the alert in his email. Otherwise, we're going to give him a call and let him know this is happening so he doesn't get blindsided by this. But what if you don't have Drive Advisor? What if you don't know? What if the hardware failure is not a hard drive, but a power supply? What if it's a capacitor on your main board? We had a server in the Papillion Service Center this week that had blown capacitors. Had to replace the whole main board. What if you have that? How do you know? And that's the whole point of Safe Upgrade. So when we install the update through Safe Upgrade, it's installed in the same way that we would install it on the service center. So it's installed safely and efficiently, and it will go all the way through until it's done. If it hits a problem, if there's something that doesn't work right, guess what it does? It stops and it says, hey, there's a problem here. You should get that fixed first. You can continue if you want to be a moron, or you could say, stop, let's fix the problem first. Now, it doesn't say the moron part. I ad-libbed that. But people will click continue anyway, I heard a great saying the other day. It's like, don't ever call anything foolproof because you underestimate the ability of fools to screw things up. Because you don't ever underestimate the ability of a fool. That's what I do with a software team. They build a new piece of software, they hand it to me, and I purposefully try to break it. I start clicking on things, and I click 5 or 6 times on the same thing when it's not supposed to do anything. And they're like, and then it blows up, and they're like, well, no one's going to do that. And I'm like, oh, I did it. And then, of course, the one time I learned this lesson the hard way, the one time I said, you're right, that's pretty left field. No one's going to do that. I'm telling you, the day we released that software, somebody did that. I got to go back to the coding team and says, now you got to fix it and push an update. So yeah, that's what we do with Safe Upgrade is we make sure that patch, that update is installed safely and efficiently so that your computer doesn't blow up in your face. And if something does go sideways, and you use Safe Upgrade to upgrade your computer, we will fix it for free. Now, that doesn't mean if you had a bad hard drive when you started the update, we're going to replace your hard drive for free because you tried to run our Safe Upgrade software. What it means is if Safe Upgrade said you are good to go, let's install this update, and it installed the update and something didn't work right, we will get your computer back up and running for you again at no additional charge. Now, if for some reason Safe Upgrade will not run because it's stopping, because it detects a problem, then you have to come into the service center potentially. We'll try to help you over the Schrock desk first, but if we can't get it going over the Schrock desk, that means it really does have a problem. And at that point, you need to come into the service center, and then we're going to do it on the bench for you there as well. There is a slight upcharge for doing it on the bench, but you can purchase your copy of Safe Upgrade at SchrockInnovations.com. That's SCHROCK innovations.com. If you click on shop and then go down to specials, I'm doing it right now just to make sure everything is neat and cozy for you here. Click on shop and then specials. You will see right there Schrock Safe Upgrade for $54.99. To safely upgrade your Windows 10 computer, there are 47 copies left in stock. That's it. The reason we limit the number of copies, let's just say that we would hope this would never happen, but let's say that there is something horribly, horribly wrong with Microsoft's update. 500 customers is the number of customers we can simultaneously support and provide decent service. After 500, it starts to get sloppy, and we don't like sloppy. So we limit it to 500 copies. No more will be sold after that until people start using their copies, freeing up available support licenses, and then we will go forward from there. So there's 47 copies left in stock right now if you want to check it out at SchrockInnovations.com. 888-250-2091. We're going to take our first break of the program. But guys, when we come back, cyber attacks on a pipeline. So a pipeline, a physical thing in or on the ground that crosses 10 states, has been disabled and is currently at this moment disabled due to a cyber attack. We're going to tell you what happened, what we know, what we suspect, and what the fallout from this is going to be. Also, Joe, your call is coming up next on Compute This.
Schrock Innovations can't teleport technicians to you, but online help is only a click away with the Schrock Desk. Subscribe today and get unlimited help whenever you need it. Compute This Pro Tip 178. Those little life-saving surge protector strips are vital to your computer's health and should be used whenever possible, even for laptops. As computers get smaller and more powerful, they're also becoming more sensitive to dirty power, and your power is a lot dirtier than you might think. Even if you have a whole home surge protection, most power surges are generated within your own home. If you've ever vacuumed and seen the lights get dimmer and brighter, you created a surge. Surge protectors can only absorb so much energy measured in joules. When that capacity is exhausted, your surge protector becomes a glorified extension cord and needs to be replaced. You should always look for surge protectors that give audible alerts when they're no longer able to protect your equipment. Schrock recommends these because the lights on most strips are just power lights and they don't tell you when it's time to replace the unit. If in doubt, replace your surge protectors annually to keep your expensive TVs, computers, and other electronic equipment safe. This pro tip is brought to you by Schrock Innovations Computer Company.
Welcome to Schrock Innovations. How can I help you today?
I'm having a problem with my computer.
You're at the right place. We fix problems with computers.
That's why I'm here.
What seems to be the problem with your computer?
When I press the power button, it doesn't boot up. How fast can you fix it?
We're the fastest computer fixer in Omaha. We'll fix it fast.
How fast?
Real fast. Do you have it plugged in when you turn it on?
Of course it was plugged in. Do people make that mistake a lot?
You'd be surprised. When you press the power button, what happens?
It roars, then stops and sits.
Ooh, like a lion?
Like a what? Well, I suppose.
Sounds like a bad power supply, sir.
Is that bad?
It's not good, but we can fix it fast.
How fast?
How's that for fast?
Does it work?
Yes, sir. More purring, less roaring now.
Wow, that was fast.
Schrock Innovations is the fastest computer repair in Omaha, sir.
That's great, but all this talking is making me hungry. You guys sell sandwiches?
We do fast computer repair. If you want a fast sandwich, you have to go someplace else. Why would we sell sandwiches?
I don't know. All this fast talking is strangely familiar.
Schrock Innovations. If you want a fast sandwich, don't go there. But if you want your computer fixed and back on your desk fast, give them a call or visit their website at SchrockInnovations.com.
Alrighty, folks, rocking on. Welcome back into Compute This. My name's Thor Schrock. I'm the owner of the Schrock Innovations Computer Company. For better, for worse, there are good days and there are days I'm just like, why can't I just go home at 5 o'clock like everybody else? It's because I love what I do. 888-250-2091. Let's jump into those phones. Joe, thanks for hanging on the line there. How can I help you today on Compute This?
Hi, Thor. I enjoy listening to you on Sunday mornings, but you also mentioned you might be on KFAB in the afternoon, like someday coming up. Do you know that's still going to happen?
Yeah, they haven't yanked it yet. I haven't sent over my show prep plan yet either. I'm waiting to the last minute because I'm I'm trying to walk a very fine line. So, if for those of you who weren't listening last week, KFAB is having me guest host a segment on Tuesday, May 11th, from 2 until 6 p.m. So it is not a 4-hour compute this episode. There will be some tech in there. We're going to talk some chip shortages and manufacturing and stuff. But we're talking about, and during the aftershock here, I'll go into a little detail about what I want to do. I'm trying to line up some guests, but trying to hire people is a pain in the butt right now for small businesses, and we're going to talk about that with specifics. How much could you actually earn if you went on unemployment? Like, has anybody actually sat down and if you make $15 an hour, how much would you get if you went on unemployment? Well, I sat down and figured it out, and it's why we're not getting people applying for jobs. So we're gonna talk about some of that stuff. We're gonna have some local business owners on. It's gonna be a fun show. So I'm trying to walk a very fine line because nobody likes to listen to boring radio, right? Nobody likes to listen to things that don't elicit an emotional or opinionated response. However, I am also a business owner in the Omaha Metro, the Lincoln Metro, the Des Moines Metro area, the Papillion Metro area. I really don't serve my business well by ticking off half of the people in town. So I'm trying to walk a fine line. How do you talk about vaccine hesitancy while walking that fine line? We're going to try to do it at 2:00 on Tuesday. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. I'm trying to line up a couple guests. Ironically, I'm having a tougher time getting someone from the medical community to come on to speak in support of vaccines. Yeah, that one was a shock. I'm having an easy time finding people to talk about hesitancy. I'm having a difficult time finding people to talk about, why you should go get your vaccine. And I thought it would be the other way around, honestly. So that was kind of shocking. So yeah, we're gonna do some things on the show, and we're gonna have it's a one-time deal. It is not an audition. It is not a hey, this is the Thor Schrock show forever kind of thing. But you know what? If I had the opportunity to sit in the number 2 time slot on Omaha's number 1 radio station for 4 hours, and I'm going to take that opportunity just so I can check it off the bucket list that I did 4 hours on 1110 KFAB. Boom, there you go. But no, we're going to have a fun time with it because you know what? What's the worst they're going to do? Fire me? So we're going to have some fun. So yes, Joe, thank you for remembering. And yep, I'll be on Tuesday from 2 to 6 on 1110 KFAB.
Thanks, Thor. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Ron. Welcome to the program, Ron. How can I help you on Compute This?
Hey, Thor, I love the show.
Thank you.
My wife has an older Android phone. We've changed to a new carrier, and we're on a 3 gigabyte plan.
Okay.
She regularly goes over that limit. And on the carrier side, I can log in and see my wife's phone data usage, but it's not showing where that data is being used. Like on the May 7th at 6:10 a.m., it's 47 megabytes. At 6:03, it's 19 megabytes. Is there a way I can drill down and see where that data is going and being used?
It depends on the interface. What's the model of the phone? Is it a Samsung or what is it?
It's a Samsung, a Galaxy, yes.
Okay, and then who's the carrier?
Patriot Mobile.
Okay, did you say a 3 gigabyte plan?
3 megabyte. I'm sorry, 3 gigabytes.
Okay, 3 gigabytes. 3 gigabytes is incredibly small. That is like ludicrously small for a cell phone these days. You're going to burn through the Samsung OS updates alone for your phone, which are required, are going to burn through more than 3 gigs of updates. Now, the trick, though, is trying to keep it on Wi-Fi as much as you can and then disabling anything that would want to use cellular data. But I'm sure the carrier tracking is going to do more than 3 gigabytes in a month. I mean, just your location data and everything like that. So, unfortunately, you can drill down into if you go into the usage, it'll tell you like by apps, it'll tell you by updates, it'll tell you carrier stuff. It'll tell you by program which app is using data. You can drill down that way to see where the data is going. But, trying to track down, hey, this morning we used 16 megabytes of data. That's going to be virtually impossible to track because it's not coming from one app usually. It's coming from an assortment of apps. Most of the time, the reason why carriers have a plan that small is to get you in the door and then upsell you into a better plan because you're hit with overages so much. That's certainly the Cox Communications model, right? You get into a plan and then you don't have gigabit, And then they say, well, if you go to gigabit, you don't have a data cap. So everybody goes to gigabit. Then they get rid of that. So now we have to actually pay for the unlimited data on gigabit because everyone's cutting the cord like we did last month and leaving cable TV behind because, what do you actually watch on it anymore? Everything is streaming now. So, Cox is trying to make it back with raising the price of the internet. So the same thing with your cellular providers. With 5G coming out, more and more people are going to start relying on that 5G connection. They're going to start looking at alternatives like Starlink, things like that. And so that places will offer smaller plans to get you in the door, and then try to increase their revenue by getting you to subscribe to a higher level plan, or as an alternative, charging you a fee for going over your data cap. So that's pretty standard operating procedure stuff. Thanks for the call, Ron. I appreciate it there. 888-250-2091. All right, so there's a pipeline that goes from Texas all the way up to the East Coast, and it's been hit by a cyber attack. The Colonial Pipeline has shut down. It supplies 45% of the East Coast fuel. When I say fuel, I mean gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and home heating oil. Thankfully, we're not in the winter, although it feels kind of cool out today. So home heating oil won't be a huge critical thing, but literally that pipeline is stopped. Now, Colonial is not saying why it is stopped. They're not saying, all they're saying is it was a cyber attack. However, when you read their statement, I think I know what's going on. The statement reads, on May 7th, the Colonial Pipeline Company learned it was the victim of a cyber attack. In response, we proactively took certain systems offline to contain the threat. The only reason you take computers offline in a cyber attack to contain a threat is when you've been hit with ransomware. Oh, boy. Yeah. So, which temporarily halted all pipeline operations and affected some of our IT systems. Again, ransomware. Upon learning of the issue, a leading third-party cybersecurity firm was engaged, and they have launched an investigation in the nature and scope of the incident, which is ongoing. Again, ransomware. If somebody hacks in and drops, an I love you virus on your network, you don't call a third-party cybersecurity firm to come in. If somebody drops a ransomware network, our evil infection on your network that shuts down your computers, wanting you to pay a $50 million ransom like they're doing to Apple right now, then yeah, you're going to call these guys in because you want to find out, is there any way we can get around this without paying the ransom? Colonial Pipeline is taking steps to understand and resolve this issue. They don't even know what happened yet, i.e., at this time, our primary focus is the safe and efficient restoration of our service. Well, of course it is. This pipeline goes on one end, it goes from New Jersey, and on the other end, it goes all the way into Texas to Houston. It crosses through Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, because it's right on top, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and New York. Insane. This is 1/5 of the United States had its gasoline, diesel, heating oil cut in half with one cyber attack. And tell me that we shouldn't be afraid of a cyber attack shutting down critical infrastructure. Tell me that you shouldn't be worried about a cyber attack shutting down your home's infrastructure because you chose not to protect your computers, because AVG is all I need, or Avast is good enough for me. About the only consumer-grade antivirus out there that's worth anything right now is Kaspersky. Norton 360, McAfee, WebRoot, Malwarebytes. I wouldn't run them on any of my personal equipment. I don't, honestly. And it's not just because I have a company that sells antivirus. I'd rather not run anything than run those programs. That tells you what I think of them without me getting sued by saying exactly what I think of them. 888-250-2091. Got to take our bottom of the hour break. When we come back, though, Australia says privacy is for crooks and you don't need it. So we're going to dive into this a little bit and talk about the age-old battle between better sword, better shield, why people need privacy, why you need privacy on your technology devices, and why Australia is wrong. Coming up next on Compute This.
If you can dream it, Schrock Interactive's website developers can make it happen. Refresh your website, automate sales and marketing, and grow your business today with Schrock Interactive. External hard drives are handy. You can back up multiple computers to them or even use them to move lots of data from one computer to another. computer users have been buying the same old external hard drives for years. While our computers have been getting faster, we still do backups that take hours or watch epic progress bars creep by to move files. Schrock wanted more for our customers, so our innovators created the fastest external hard drives on the planet. Schrock modular storage devices are up to 50% faster than Seagate or Western Digital externals and are modular in the truest sense of the word. We can create whatever size and speed of drive you need for all of your needs, and all modular storage devices come with a data restoration guarantee. If you use our drives for backing up and your computer's hard drive fails, we'll restore your backup to your repaired computer for free. Fast, simple, and flexible technology solutions from Schrock Innovations. It's what we do. Compute This Pro Tip number 753. Have you ever wondered how the bad guys always seem to find a way into your computer? Gone are the good old days of email worms and I love you viruses. Nobody wants to steal your data anymore, or in many cases even your identity. Today's cybercriminals want to sell access to your computer or hold your data for ransom. The bad guys are exploiting zero-day vulnerabilities to break into systems that are supposed to be hack-proof. These vulnerabilities are always newly discovered, and the criminals have a brief time to exploit them before they get patched. Antivirus and firewalls do not prevent these attacks, but you can minimize your computer's exposure by installing all security patches as quickly as possible. The average computer needs 12 patches a week. That's not including the ones that are automatically delivered to your computer. Boost your cybersecurity by staying on top of it manually, or use a patch installation program like Secure Updater to get your computer the patches it needs. This pro tip is brought to you by Schrock Innovations Computer Company.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. Is the Biden administration finessing its own ethics standards when it comes to choosing White House staff members?
The White House waiving federal ethics rules for top union officials in senior administration posts, giving labor unions a very powerful voice in administration decisions. Now, back in March, a senior official in the Office of Personnel Management, Alethea Perdue, was allowed to facilitate communication between the federal government and the American Federation of Government Employees.
Fox's Griff Jenkins. Multi-billionaire Elon Musk made a surprising admission while hosting Saturday Night Live last night.
I'm actually making history tonight as the first person with Asperger's to host SNL. Or at least the first to admit it.
Courtesy NBC. America is listening to Fox News.
Now, the News Radio 1110 KFAB Weather Watch.
We're tracking some light mist and drizzle across the area this morning, a bit breezy as well. More dry time for the afternoon and more peaks of sunshine as well, with highs staying cool in the mid to upper 50s. We'll drop down to around 40 degrees tonight, partly sunny on Monday with a high of 63. With Omaha's most accurate forecast, I'm 6 News First Alert meteorologist Mallory Schnell on News Radio 1110 KFAB.
Alrighty, folks. I hope everybody got their potty breaks in, got your snack bowls refilled. Winston got the donuts, and now we're good to go for another half hour of Compute This. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Genuinely appreciate it. Also, make sure you stay tuned at facebook.com/Schrock Innovations. We are live streaming the show there right now. There's a whole discussion happening aside from the one happening on the show. So during the commercial breaks, we're jumping back and forth. So apparently, during the bottom of the hour news there, my son, my 3-year-old son, comes over to the computer where the lovely Kimberly is at home, and he says, "Hi, Dad." And my wife's like, he thinks he's on a Zoom call or something, like he can talk back. And I'm like, it just occurs to me suddenly, like, he's 3. He knows what a Zoom call is? What happened to us? When I was a kid, I remember my dad worked for Cox Communications, or back then it was called Cox Cable, when I was a kid in the 80s. And we got free cable because he worked there, and that was awesome because I was a master at the UHF dial. I mean, I could find all kinds of weird NPR-ish stations on that dial. Always looking for something new, watching the Muppets, whatever you could find. And so all of a sudden, my dad works for the cable company, and he'd come home and he'd said, "Son, one day our telephones are going to go through cable wires, and we're going to have video calls and things like this." And I'm just trying to imagine like talking to the TV, and it seems so like 10-year-old Thor brain was so foreign, right? Because you talk on the phone. Like, I didn't have a rotary phone, but I had the push buttons on like the red phone You had the lime green phone and you had the red phone, and it had that bell ringer on it, and you'd push the buttons on the phone to make a phone call. That's how it worked, kids. There were physical buttons you had to push. Then you go to grandma's house, and it was really cool because the phone upstairs was rotary, and you figured out you could trick the phone by not taking the dial all the way to the stop, and then all of a sudden it's not an 8, it's a 7. These are the things that kids in the 80s did to entertain themselves because we didn't have iPads, okay? We played with rotary phones. And now 3-year-olds are like, oh, that's Dad. He's on a Zoom call. Hi, Dad. How you doing? It's like, oh, my goodness. 888-250-2091. So if you want to get in on that kind of action, hop on over to facebook.com/Schrock Innovations. Also, stay tuned after the program. We do another little show. I say little. Sometimes it goes an hour. Sometimes it goes 20 minutes. It just depends what we got to talk about and what kind of a groove we're in. But the After Schrock is something that happens on Facebook after the program. This week on the After Schrock, Ethereum is nuts. Did you see Ethereum touching $4,000 this morning? $4,000 for Ethereum. If you don't know what Ethereum is, it's basically if Bitcoin is gold, Ethereum is silver. So there you go. It's the cryptocurrency that people actually use to do things because nobody pays for anything with gold coins. Even Judas got paid in silver. He didn't even get gold, and he gave up Jesus. So I mean, silver was the currency of an economy, and that's what Ethereum is. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I found some in my couch this week. We'll talk about that. The new Chia coin that's out. This isn't all about crypto. It just happened there was 2 really big crypto stories. I call it Chia. I don't know. It's chai. It's chai. It's not Chia. But the website is chia.net. So I started saying, or chia.net sounds like Chia Pet, and people know how to go there. Anyway, the coin held its value at $1,100 after release. And pooling is coming next week. We're going to talk about that. If you're somebody who's into crypto, it's going to be a good show for you. Also, as promised, I'm going to do a preview of the segments of what I want to cover on my show coming up on the 11th on 1110 KFAB from 2 to 6 p.m. I have not gotten these approved yet. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that I've been told I have to submit anything for approval. However, even though this is a one-time appearance, and even though there's no video, so you couldn't see me getting escorted out of the building if I do something wrong, I really don't want to do something wrong because these people are trusting me with 4 hours of airtime on Nebraska's #1 radio station. I don't want to screw up. So I'm planning a lot, ridiculously a lot, and getting approvals. I'm asking permission rather than forgiveness, which is new for me, okay? Because it's not my show, it's your show in the afternoon. And so I want to make sure I do something that's going to be entertaining, informative, fun, and keep you listening to the radio. Because so many of you told me you turned it off, and I don't like that because the thing is, that time slot, a lot of people didn't agree with the decisions that were made that made that time slot available. Let's put it that way. That's fine. I understand that. However, if you turn your radio off, you have no say in who's going to fill that time slot going forward. It's not going to be me, okay? But you have no say. There's going to be other guest hosts throughout the week. And they're literally auditioning, guys. And you are the judges. You're Simon Cowell, okay? You got to listen to them and that's absolute garbage, or that's amazing. And you tell them that. And that's how they know who to put in that time slot to entertain you and inform you for years to come, okay? So you got to turn the radios back on because that's the only way that this works, and it's the only way you support local decisions that are made at local radio stations that are supported by local advertisers like Schrock Innovations, okay? So, yes, there's a little I'm like, if the radio station doesn't do good, I don't want that. We want the radio station to do good. I love this station. I want it to do great, so I'm going to put on one heck of a show. We're going to talk about what we're going to do on that show during the Aftershock. 888-250-2091. Let's go to the phones real quick. John, welcome to the program. How can I help you on Compute This today?
Good morning, Thor, and happy Mother's Day to your mother and all other mothers out there that are listening.
Thank you.
They are so underappreciated. I really realized that this morning when I was looking at some paperwork that was sitting
just now
in the house here that delineated my mom's approximately 50 years of continuing education that she had to go through every year, multiple times in a year, at her own expense, on her own time, and they get terrible wages compared to the responsibility they carry and the malpractice insurance that they have to carry, just like doctors and pharmacists do. So, a salute to all of you mothers out there. for all of the great things that you do for us when we're growing up and all the rest of our lives, because we know that you love us unconditionally, and we seldom express our love back to you the way that you deserve. And a special salute out there to any nurses, and especially registered nurses, who have worked a lot of years with not nearly the pay that you deserve. If you were being paid what you were worth, by the time you're in your 60s, you should be making $1 million or more a year.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Don. I appreciate your call. Thank you for taking the time to join us on the show. At first, I was really confused by his call because I was like, I haven't ever paid my mother. You're supposed to pay your mother? Like, my mother's calling me right now. What's going on? She's underpaid. And then it was the nurses he was talking about. I'm like, I get it now. I was like, he paid his mother? I don't understand. Oh, golly. So, yep. Thank you very much for the call, John. We appreciate it there. So Australia comes around and says, you know what? There is absolutely no reason that a normal person needs to use any encryption technology at all. Okay, so let me just throw this out there for you. Have any of you bought anything on Amazon recently? Have any of you bought anything on Target.com recently? Maybe you did a pickup order. Maybe you've used the Target app. Maybe you purchased something on Walmart.com recently or set up a pickup for Walmart. Maybe you've ordered a Jimmy John's sandwich recently or a pizza. If you've done any of those things, guess what you used? Encryption. And you didn't even know you were using it because the best encryption is transparent encryption, right? So Australia says you don't need to have your credit card number protected from cyber criminals when you order a pizza online by using secure socket layers on your credit card transactions. That's only for criminals. Now, actually, what they were talking about is the use of VPNs and apps like Signal, which I am increasingly using. In fact, Signal's really cool. When you install Signal on your phone, whenever one of your contacts adds Signal to their phone, it lets you know that they're onto Signal. And it's like watching your friends wake up. And you're like, welcome aboard, buddy. Welcome to the train. Come on in. I'll send you a message. Nice to see you on Signal. The thing about this, guys, is that encryption is used to protect your data, to protect the information that surrounds your life. Now, I don't know how we got to this, but my father, after he passed away, I was going through his papers, and he had checkbooks, like check registers from checkbooks from his great-grandmother. I didn't even know they wrote checks back then. Like, what? Why would you keep that, Dad? She's been dead for like 100 years. Why would you, literally, why would you keep the checking records? The IRS ain't coming for her. Why would you keep these records? And, was it because you just didn't throw anything away or what? It was interesting to look back through it and see, what she paid for, housing and things like that. But I mean, it was just academic interest, We went from a place where people kept records privately for years, even when they didn't need to a point now where the general attitude is you're not worthy of privacy. You don't have a right to privacy. In fact, you don't have a right to shield your data from the eyes of the government just in case you're doing something wrong. Just in case. We should be able to look, and there should be a backdoor that lets the FBI into your personal papers without a warrant. That should be required. Apple disagreed, and most tech companies take Apple's position that if we build a backdoor in for law enforcement, that same backdoor will eventually become available for bad actors. Because humans are humans and stuff leaks. People get hung in jail cells. I'm just saying, stuff happens, right? So if we build a backdoor and we give that username and password to the FBI, eventually that's going to find its way out somewhere. Or we give it to a police department in New York. It's going to find its way out. And then the backdoor is available to the bad guys, and all of our customers are at risk. So we are not going to purposefully build in a backdoor into our products. Now, this commission that reported on this in Australia, their actual words about encrypted communication services were, these platforms are used almost exclusively by SOC, serious and organized crime. There's an acronym for that. By SOC groups that are developed specifically to obscure the identities of the involved criminal entities and enable avoidance and detection by law enforcement. Yes, these systems can be used by bad guys to shield their data just like any other person can shield their data. Now, we don't live in Australia, right? We live in the United States of America. But this same discussion took place in the 90s. Remember when Pretty Good Protection came out? It was the first consumer-based encryption. It ran on Windows 95. And if you had a PGP encryption key, nobody knew what that was, right? But if you had your computer encrypted, the FBI literally couldn't get into it. And I know that's hard to believe that someone with the resources of the Federal Bureau of Investigation or a police department would not have the capability to get into a piece of technology. But let me share a couple stories with you before we go to break. The first one is in one of my service centers. I will not identify which one. A law enforcement agency, which I will not identify, brought us a MacBook. The MacBook supposedly contained illicit images that were of interest to law enforcement officers. However, the computer would not turn on, and therefore, and it was a Mac, so they could not, and there was no removable hard drive. The computer wouldn't turn on, so they couldn't get access to the hard drive. They had the passwords and everything, they just couldn't get the computer to power on. They brought it into a Schrock service center so that we could hopefully get access to the data for them. Now, they have a forensic cyber crimes unit. They have IT people on staff, I'm assuming, because they all have computers, right? I mean, nobody thought to take it to the IT guy that runs the network for the computers because all we had to do was plug it in. I'm not joking. With Macs, you have to, if the battery is completely dead, when you plug them in, you have to let the battery accumulate a base charge before you can turn on the Mac. Anyone who's ever owned a Mac and let the battery die knows this. It's the same thing with your iPad. You plug in your iPad, you get the no battery symbol for like 10 minutes until it finally will turn on. So we let it sit on the charger for a half an hour. We fired it up. We charged an hour of labor. There you go. There's your access. That's the level of technical competency of many law enforcement organizations. They have experts that they turn to help them with these things, and we were very honored to be able to help that LEO to get access to the stuff that they needed. But it was shocking how simple it was. Another one, a Russian spy in the height of the Cold War was smuggling secrets out of the United States on floppy disk drives. And the way he did that is he created a partition. Basically, he put the data on the disk and then took the drive letter away from the partition. So, you put your floppy disk in, it's the A drive, right? Well, if that partition is not assigned a drive letter, it doesn't show up on the computer when you put the disk in. The disk looks blank. It may ask to be formatted. So he put all the secrets on the disk and took away the drive letter and then sent the disk back to Russia. Well, the Russian government gets the disk and they didn't know how to access the data. They couldn't figure it out. This is Russia, where they couldn't get exports of technology from the United States, so they learned to build their own computers from the capacitor up. That's why all these great hackers are coming out of Russia. These guys are incredibly technologically skilled, and they couldn't figure that out. So it's not just a U.S. problem. It's a government incompetency problem everywhere, that technology moves so fast that governments can't keep up. Encryption is a great example of that. I encrypt everything that I do now. Not because I'm doing things nefariously, not because I'm, avoiding anything or committing any crimes. I'm not a member of an SOC, for heaven's sake. I do it because I'm not worried about the government. I'm worried about Facebook. I'm worried about Google. I'm worried about these mega corporations that are accountable to no one, not even their shareholders anymore, because as long as they return the big bucks by selling enough data of your data to other people, then the life is great. So I encrypt my stuff now so that Cox doesn't see what I'm doing, so that Google doesn't see, so that Facebook can't see. That's why I'm encrypting, not because I'm worried about the government coming for me. The government is stuck in 1990s tech. They're not coming for my Signal app. Now, there are people within the government who are technologically savvy. There are human beings in the government that know how to use technology, right? But what I'm saying here is it's not the government you need to worry about. It's everybody else, all the service providers that you use. They're selling your data on the back end, whether you know it or not. And by using these apps, you can protect your data so that it can't be sold, which protects you from ending up in anti-Fourth Amendment searches when data brokers are trying to sell your data. That's why it's perfectly legitimate to have encryption technology on your devices. 888-250-2091. I'm going to take the final break of the program here, guys. When we come back, if you have an old iPhone, anything up to about 2.5 years old, I'm going to tell you one stupid trick that will make that iPhone smoke, the brand new iPhone 12, and you can throw it in your face, Daddy. Don't do it to your mother, though. It's Mother's Day. Don't do that to your mother. But do it to your dad. And we'll just tell you how coming up next on Compute This.
Drive Advisor is a free program from Schrock Innovations that monitors your hard drive's health and tells you if it's going bad. Download it for free at driveadvisor.com. Schrock Innovations has spent nearly 2 decades working to make your technology life easier, and the all-new SchrockInnovations.com is no exception. Now you can order new modular computers and solid-state laptops directly from our website, secure your computer with our virus-free guaranteed semantic endpoint software, find innovative new technologies like our modular storage devices, and get free help and tips. Take a look at the special section to find sales on one-of-a-kind items, display models, refurbished units, and our latest special offers. Swing by the Compute This page to watch TV segments and archived radio shows, or even get one-on-one help through the Schrock Desk. As always, we respect your privacy, so we secure our website with the latest encryption technology and only the most secure payment methods. You can pick up your purchases at any of our 3 service centers or have them shipped directly to your door. The new SchrockInnovations.com makes technology simple. It's what we do. And now Compute This Pro tip number 373. Everyone knows we're supposed to back up our computers and then check those backups periodically to make sure they're working. So why don't most people do it? Lots of people have different ideas about what backing up means. Is it copying files to a flash drive? Is it using a fancy backup program? And how do you know it's working anyway? Windows makes backups easy through free software that's already on your computer. Open your control panels and click Update and Security. Select Backup and choose from all of the available options to get a regular, reliable checkup. You'll need something to back up to, like a Schrock modular storage device or some other backup hard drive. Backups usually run once a week, but you can always change the frequency. The best part is that if your backup ever fails, you'll see a notification in the lower right corner by your clock telling you something's up. Backing up your important data has never been easier, so take a moment to back up your computer today. This pro tip brought to you by Schrock Innovations Computer Company.
Alrighty, folks, welcome back into Compute This, final segment of the program. Comment on Facebook. This is from Deneen. My brother-in-law, an Apple Mac guy, doesn't see the need for antivirus or a VPN. If you're not doing anything wrong, why do you need that? Was his question. Okay, this is the quintessential question. So first of all, that doesn't really apply to antivirus, and there's a widely held misconception in the Apple community that Macs don't need antivirus. Disproven several times over. Apple's had to push updates out to patch things. I mean, it's been rough, okay? Macs need antivirus like any other computer. So do Linux computers, by the way. Now, the VPN is different. So if you're not doing anything wrong, why do you need a VPN to mask your online activities? If you're not doing anything wrong, why don't you give $1 from your wallet to that guy over there? Open your wallet and let him come up to it and take $1 out. It's just $1. You're not going to miss it. It's not going to change your life. Why not? Why wouldn't you do that? Because that's literally what you're doing without having a VPN. You're literally opening up a wallet of your privacy data, and people are coming and taking it. And then they're selling that data to other people who are going to try to sell you other things like your extended car warranties based on that data. Or politicians are going to craft their messages and how to reach you precisely in a micro-targeting strategy on Facebook using that data. Now, additionally, Facebook said that iOS users might have to start paying for Facebook because if we can't track you, that's our revenue model. So Apple says no tracking, no tracky track, and people are opting out of tracking. Well, we can't just show untargeted ads. We might have to pay for it. And now Google is getting in on the mix too, saying Android developers will need to add iOS-like privacy information in the next year when Google turns off tracking, which is completely ironic because Google is the single largest advertising agency on the planet. So basically what Google is saying is no one but us can track you now. And you've just boxed out every competitor. Because the only agency that will have the tracking data that is needed to actually target people will be Google. Facebook won't have that data. Maybe Facebook will buy it from Google. See how this is working? Your data is going to be private from all the small fish out there who would skim it and collect it, but Google will sell your data to anybody. Facebook will sell your data to anybody. So why do you not need a VPN? That's why you need a VPN. All right, so speaking of Apples and things like that, a 2.5-year-old iPhone XR beats the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 12 in benchmark tests. A benchmark test is when you set two phones down beside each other, have them do the same task, and see which one finishes first. That's a simplified version, of course, but you get the idea. iOS 14.5.1 appears to be throttling performance. Is it a bug or a feature? Only an Apple story would say, when you slow my phone down, it's a feature. You know, it's like when what was it? When basically the Apple phones got slow because the batteries were old, that was a feature too, because we want to make sure you can just keep right on using that iPhone, even though the battery doesn't work at all. But why would you slow the phone down? Well, it could turn off if the battery's bad, but then I would get a new battery, right? Well, we want you to have a good experience, or we want you to buy a new iPhone, but it doesn't make sense. The iPhone XR, a budget phone released in 2018, has been shown to outperform the iPhone 11 and 12, released in September and October of 2019 and 2020, respectively, in benchmark tests. The range of tests carried out by this dude include both boot time tests, app load times, video saving speeds, and more. So literally every potential thing you could do with an iPhone. The synthetic benchmark tests are where the throttling shows up the most. For example, the iPhone XR had a better multi-core Geekbench, because that makes a lot of sense to everybody, score than the iPhone 11 and 12. This is not what we would expect, with the average scores from Geekbench suggesting that iOS 14.5.1 is throttling the performance on newer devices. So should you get iOS 14.5.1? It will slow your phone down. Will there be an iPhone 14.5.2? Undoubtedly. And that will speed your phone back up in case you've already loaded the update. So there you go, guys. Now you know what's going on in the world of technology around you. I hope that you're equipped to tackle the technology week. I've given you the VPN conversations. You know, that if you didn't buy anything for Mother's Day, you go online, go to ExpressVPN. They don't pay me. I don't get any money for sending you there. You buy her a year of VPN service for her computer. You just print it out on the printer, stick it in that Mother's Day card, and say, Mom, I gave you some privacy. Because every mother out there knows what I'm talking about. You just want 5 minutes to yourself, right? And some quiet where no one is taking stuff from you or hanging off of you. That's a VPN, right? That's the digital version of that. All right, congratulations, Ron. You got yourself a $25 Schrock Innovations gift certificate. Addie will get that over to you on Monday. She was out on Friday, guys. She got her COVID shot, so she was sick the next day. We'll see you again next weekend for another exciting edition of Compute This.
This is News Radio 1110 KFAB Omaha. Online at KFAB.com. On your phone with the iHeart